Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for Z Nation. And this video is going to be a video that was requested by Jackson Boss. Thank you again, Jackson, for this suggestion. And I think that it really was a very intriguing idea. And it's more of one of those what if videos, like what if this would have happened. And I think that it was a very good point. And the what if situation that was brought up was, how would season one have been different if Hammond would not have died in the pilot? And I did think about that. I really was interested in the character of Hammond. I think that him in the trailer, I think he was one of the more intriguing characters at the start of the show. And he got killed off suddenly in, the season one premiere. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that this happened. They killed off a character that I thought was going to be a big central part of the show. And just some ideas about what would have happened if Hammond would have lived and what would his character have done. And I think that it's a very good idea, and I'm going to give a couple of thoughts on that. So thank you for the suggestion, Jackson. And again, if you guys have any other suggestions for Z Nation that you want to see, do not be afraid to suggest them. I think that Z Nation is amazing. We are getting very close to the season premiere of season 2, and I'm getting really excited for what the show has to offer. So if you guys have any other suggestions, don't be afraid to let me know. So I'm going to get this video started. Going back and thinking about the character of Hammond, we realize that Hammond is very, mission oriented. He really reminds me a lot about Abraham in The Walking Dead. Abraham's goal as a character was to get Eugene to Alexandria, well, to Washington, D.C., but you get the point. He had a goal, and that goal kept him alive, prevented him from killing himself when his wife and kids, ended up dead. And I think that Hammond was really the same way. He was very mission oriented. His goal was to get Murphy to California, and that kept him alive. That kept him going. And in a sense, handing that mission off to Garnett, Warren, and the rest of the group really, gave them the same purpose. Now, we saw that in that episode, Hammond was very bossy, and Hammond was very, hey, this is the way we're going to do it. He really, in a sense, is a lot like Abraham. I mean, he really is the clone in Z Nation because, Hammond had ideas and he was willing to do whatever it took to get to that point. So, if he needed a truck, you were giving him a darn truck. If we had to get moving, you were getting moving. You had 15 minutes to do X, Y, Z. Do it. We're going. He's very, push forward. And I think that, his character definitely would have clashed a lot with the rest of the group. Because in a sense, a lot of them were like, sheesh, who's this guy coming into the situation, ordering us around, telling us what to do? Lighten up, buddy. And I think that Hammond really would have struggled a lot with that. This idea of, sharing power, or even, this idea of growing close to the rest of the group. But I think that it would have been very interesting to see him, transform as a character. Because I think that one of the overall things that I think would have happened with Hammond if he had lived, I think he would have, become a little bit more of a softer person towards other people in the group. I think that he would have, realized how similar they are to him. That they've all suffered tragedies, and just how hard they're willing to work to help him get Murphy to California. I think he would have grown to appreciate that. But of course, I think he still would have had his moments. He kind of reminds me of like a drill sergeant in a sense. I mean, I'm not military, and I'm not, familiar 100% with some of the practices and procedures that, they do. And again, big thank you to the military as always for, all the work that you do, all of the armed forces. I have a lot of respect for them. And what I think is that, when you get to that point, you have a very interesting relationship, I think, with your superiors, because they're constantly breathing down your neck, constantly, getting you trained for, combat or what's to come. And at times you like them, and at times you probably hate their guts. That's my assumption. I think it's no different, than when you get to a point with, some teachers, how some teachers make you read 50 to 100 pages a night. And you're just like, come on, man. And you like the way they teach, but when you're doing the reading assignments, you're upset. And I think that with Hammond, it would have been a lot like that. It would have been, you know, I think he would grow to respect these guys, and that he would grow, closer to them as the mission would go forward. And really, I think they would have opened him up a little bit, because I really would have liked to have known more about his past. I think he would have had a very interesting one. How did he get that scar? I think that would have been an interesting story to explore. And just to see him, actually smile and laugh a little bit would have really been nice for his character. One-dimensional characters are never really a good idea. You really want to have more of a complexity to your characters, because if they're too one-dimensional, then they can only really serve a limited purpose. And I think that with Hammond, it would have been nice to start to break down those layers and really seeing, how he was as a person, who he was, and what he's about. Where did he come from, and what motivates him just as much as the mission. How does he survive? I think it would have been nice to explore those things. Something else that I think really would have happened was, I think there would have been a lot more of a serious tone, though, to the show, which is why, in a sense, I think he was killed off, because the show really is a mixture of comedy versus drama versus horror versus violence. It's a lot of that put together, and I think that Hammond just really didn't fit with the picture. I mean, he's too serious for these other people. I think that after a while, his bossing around, that would have really upset them, and they would have just been like, look, buddy, you either chill out or we're stopping right here, okay? You want our help, but yet you're going to treat us like this. I think that in a lot of ways, he would have been more efficient, though. I think that it really would have been more of a, push forward, we need to keep moving, we need to get to the next point. We can't dilly-dally. We can't go on these side missions. We can't do these things. I think it would have been more of a kind of like what Abraham did in the episode Self-Help. There really wasn't a lot of time to just sit around and do nothing. It really was, push forward. And I think there would have been more of that. And I think that some of these issues that they would have confronted, I think would have been dealt with in more of an efficient manner. I don't think that Hammond would have been as willing to work with people as Garnett was, and I think that that was something that, I think helped the group, was that Garnett was more sympathetic towards other individuals' needs, as well as just people in general. I think that Hammond was more the kind of person who, hey, the mission is the only thing that matters. We can't help every, Jill and Jack that are along the street, who need help. We can't do that. But the rest of the group was more willing to do that, which is something that I liked about them. But I think that Hammond would have really struggled with that. And maybe that's something that they could have taught him, that maybe he could have become more of a person like Garnett, more of a leader, but also more of like the devil's advocate, the person who would, not want to just jump into a situation. And I think that we would have seen that. I think it would have been interesting to see more disagreements between Hammond and Garnett and Warren too, probably, and to see how they would have disagreed about things, because I think that would have happened. I think Hammond would have had different ideas about how to proceed, and I think that Garnett and Warren had different ideas, and I think it would have been interesting to see how those individuals clashed, and how they ended up working through it and working together. But I think that eventually Hammond would have definitely been one of the group. I think that he would have softened a little bit as a character, and I think that's something that they would have had to do. He can't be all, hard-nosed all the time. And I think that that's something that they would have worked on throughout the show, and, would have maybe paid off a little bit for his character, to make him a lot more flexible, a lot more interesting as a character. But I think that the other thing, though, was that there really wasn't somebody that he could have interacted with. I think that each character really has their person that they identify with, interact with. And then you have Doc that, in a sense, Doc and 10,000 really do click, but Doc kind of, clicks with everybody. You have Warren and Garnett who really click, Mac and Addie. There really wasn't a lot of room for Hammond, I found. So I think it would have been hard to keep him in. And quite frankly, looking at the tone and the way that the show proceeded, I really think that, overall, even though I love Harold Perrineau as an actor, I think that, it was a good decision overall in the end to kill Hammond off, because it really solidified this group going forward with the mission, and it also helped, make us realize as an audience that this show is going to be completely different, that it doesn't matter how important you are. Hammond and Garnett were probably characters that you think of as central, somebody who you think they're gonna survive, they're gonna be the main point of the show, and then they completely blindside you and shock you. And I really have to wonder if we're gonna see some of that in season 2. Will we have a character death? And if we do, who's it gonna be and why? But I anticipate that. I anticipate that any character could really go at any time, but that it would be more appropriate for others to go at certain times than others. But I definitely think that overall for the story, I think that there were more reasons to kill Hammond off than keep him. But I think in a way it would have been nice to maybe, keep him around for a couple more episodes and really have seen this conflict that he would have had with the group, but also to, chip away a little bit at that hardness and really see the kind of guy that he really was. Because I don't think he was all work and no play. I think he definitely had good qualities that I really would have liked to have seen, and some of us would have too. But I'm interested to see the new characters that they are going to show in season 2, and I just can't wait for season 2 to premiere on September 11th. I mean, it's getting closer, and I'm very excited for the episode that will premiere. So with that, I'm going to bring this video to a close. I want to thank all of you for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. And if there are any more suggestions that you guys would like to see, do not be afraid to suggest them. Have a very wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.